Hi, this is Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson.
What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Leinart, 2004 Heisman Trophy winner.
Hey, I'm Zane Gonzalez.
Hi, I'm Matt Barry from ESPN. You're getting ready to watch one of the best college football podcasts ever. It's the Harris Highlight Show.
You're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're listening to the Harris Highlight Show. Enjoy it.
Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
We are coming to you live from Monrovia, California. This is another brand new episode of the Harris Highlight Show. Joining me this week is our college football analyst, Josh Schaefer, our college football expert, Lyle Goldstein, our executive producer, Brady Klain. I'm your host for the evening, Blake Harris. Josh, we'll start with you. How's your week going? I noticed you've been reading the newspaper, got a nice little jacket on there, so I guess you're having a good week, to say the least.
Just supporting local journalism. Usually only get one paper. We canceled both papers, actually, but we still figure out ways to have them delivered by friends and family. So we got the Daily News and the LA Times this week, and the covers just are fantastic. But, you know, Herm and the gang dropping 70 on the Cats from down south, and then SC just showing who runs LA. It's pretty good. Pretty good week. Yeah.
Oh, Brady, you're eating chicken nuggets, so I guess you're having a good week too.
Yeah, I got chicken nuggets.
There you go. Lyle, I'm sure you had a PB&J for lunch, so you're having already an amazing week.
You're muted.
And that's how it goes right there. It's okay, Lyle. You can unmute yourself anytime now.
Come on, Big L.
We've only done this every week for the last 4 months.
It's been more than 4 months.
Almost there. All right, guys. Well, Lyle tried to figure out how to unmute himself.
There you go. You can't unmute because he chose to mute himself. Never mind.
All right, so for whatever reason, Lyle's not coming off mute.
He just texted us and said his computer's frozen.
Interesting.
Well, there we go. There we go.
All right, yeah.
There we go. Lyle, you're back.
Yeah, PB&J is always a good time. Not as fun as or more fun, I should say, than this weekend of college football outside of one game. That being ASU, of course. But hopefully this week's better.
All right, guys. So we got a lot to get to this week. We're going to go over the latest playoff rankings, talk about all those, pretty much talk about everything that happened in college football this past weekend. Hopefully have some more time to do more Q&A questions from you guys. We're going to give, our pick'ems, all that fun stuff later in the show. So if you're just tuning in right now, welcome. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at the HH Show _ that way you can keep up to date with us. A lot of fun college football content over there. Make sure to give this video a like. Follow us on Instagram at Harris Highlight Show. But Brady, if you got all those rankings up, we're just going to get to it immediately this week. We're going to get to the playoff rankings. Now, last week we did my favorite segment where I go over hypothetical scenarios, but we're not going to be getting to those this week. We're just going to be talking about the playoff rankings in general, just going over this because there's a lot that I kind of want to talk about. There's a lot that I want to get to. You guys, we're going to go kind of one by one. We can go however we want. If there's anything for you guys that are watching the show live on YouTube right now, if there's anything you'd like to hear our thoughts on, it could be on a team being ranked too high or too low, a team maybe not being in the top 25, a game from this past week and an upcoming game for, this upcoming weekend. Anything you'd like to hear our thoughts on, you guys can hit us up in the super chat. You guys can donate $1, donate $2, donate however much. Whoa, there goes the mic. Donate however much you'd like. It helps support the show. And this way, because the comments are rolling right now, they are going like crazy. So it's tough to kind of find everyone's comments. So again, if you'd like to help support the show and have, your question answered, you guys can hit us up in the super chat. So guys, here is the current top 25, the last top 25 before we get to Sunday's rankings for the final top 25. So I'll throw it to whoever wants to get things underway with, I guess, their biggest takeaway from this week's rankings.
Lyle, do you want to go first? Should I hop in here? I think
Lyle's still frozen.
Lyle might still be frozen. So I'll hop in.
We're good now.
Oh, okay, cool. Do you want to go? I'll hop in.
No, mine's pretty short. I mean, to be honest, at this point in the year, you see the top four: Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State. It's pretty clear there's a significant gap between the top four and everybody else. Maybe if Clemson loses by a lot on Saturday, they'll be out. To be honest, I think if Notre Dame wins and Clemson loses close, they still get in over A&M. But the only other scenario is I think A&M getting in. Other than that, I know there's a lot of people mad about Florida dropping a spot and Cincinnati dropping one spot, and that Florida should have dropped a lot more than they did. And they're probably right. I'm just not going to waste my energy on it at this point, because I think we're at the point in the year where it's those four teams and kind of everybody else, with Texas A&M with an outside shot.
I'll waste my energy on it. I think Lyle kind of hit the top four pretty well. Bama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State. There's not much to separate them from not just each other, but I think from everybody else. I think that there is a separation. I do want to touch on Ohio State in a couple minutes, and I know that Blake wants to as well. So we'll get there. We'll get there when we get there. Look, like I'll spend my energy on it. Florida lost to a really bad LSU team. Because the exact let's get it out of the way early here, guys. The exact penalty was throwing an LSU player's shoe 20 yards downfield, and then they lose the game to a really bad LSU team, and they fall one spot. What this tells me is that the committee is basically telling Cincinnati, and they're telling USC, and they're telling Georgia, and they're telling these other teams, like, look, like, you guys didn't get it. Like, good for you. Good shot. You didn't get in. Because what we're going to do here is we still have an SEC team that's going to play in a conference championship that deserves to fall well more than one spot for losing to a really bad LSU team. But the reason why we're still going to put them within striking distance is because they still play one more meaningful game. So although all these other teams still have a couple of big games left, that's good for you. We don't care about you. We're going to focus on Florida because we think that they still could beat Bama, even though they deserve to fall a lot further than one spot. At the same time, Lyle has said a lot of things on this show, like, if you don't play, if you have a bye week, why are you dropping in the rankings? Like, you didn't do anything to deserve to fall. Is that right, Lyle? Lyle's muted.
Yeah, it is.
So Lyle said that before. No, so sorry about that. So Lyle said that before, as has the chair of the College Football Playoff Committee, Gary Barta. He said there were teams in the top 6 that didn't play, that had no reason to fall. Yet, for whatever reason, they think that they can continue to drop Cincinnati 2 weeks in a row. Cincinnati has fallen in the rankings for not playing a game. And his reasoning was, oh, well, the committee felt like, oh, well, we haven't seen them since the last weekend of November. So we have to drop them. Okay. A&M didn't play this week. Ohio State's had games canceled and they didn't play this past weekend. Ohio State and Texas A&M haven't played in 2 weeks either. So why do they not move at all while the teams around them are moving and Cincinnati is continuing to drop? So that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And the one quote from Gary Barta, I'm calling him out. The one quote that I really didn't like at all was, he said, and I quote, "We have shown great appreciation for Cincinnati since the beginning." No, you have not. You have not shown any respect to Cincinnati. And we're all saying, like, oh, well, let's be honest. Are they a top 4 team in the country? No, but this is a strange year of college football where we were giving Ohio State a quality win over Penn State for like 6 weeks. Penn State's got like 2 wins, guys. That's not a quality win, and we'll get there when we get there, again, with what Blake wants to talk about with Ohio State. Cincinnati and Coastal and BYU, we've had these conversations, and we've said every single show, if this is a year for a group of 5 team to get in the playoff, it's this year. So why not give them that shot when there's teams like Ohio State and USC who aren't playing very many games, and you've got teams like Florida that are losing to bad LSU teams, and LSU has dropped off the face of the planet except for a shoe that flew 20 yards. Why not let them at least get their foot in the door? And I don't care what Gary Barta says or what the College Football Playoff Committee has said, you have not given them the respect that they deserve from the beginning. Like, that's just not true. That's just not true. And good for BYU and good for Coastal for figuring out that game so that they can play each other, so they can get that strength of schedule up a little bit more for each of them. That's great. BYU, if they would have won that game, who knows where BYU would be right now? They might be in the conversation right now, as they should be. But from the beginning of the college football playoff rankings, the guys on ESPN have constantly said they're not showing any respect to Cincinnati or BYU. BYU loses, playoff committee looks smart. Cincinnati doesn't get a chance to play. That's out of their control. And suddenly they're falling in the rankings. And look, like, that to me is not giving a team the respect that they deserve since week 1. Like Gary Barta, the chair of the College Football Playoff Committee, explicitly said about 45 minutes ago on national television.
Before I let Brady or Lyle, if they want to add anything, I do want to get to one of our super chats from Joaquin Fernandez. Thank you, Joaquin, thank you for your donation. But he says the SEC bias is real. If it were a Pac-12 team in Florida's exact situation, they would drop significantly, if not out of the rankings. What I'm getting at this is, and again, we're not really going to go over scenarios this week. Also, sorry, Brady, that you're completely blocked by the super chat donation. But I think by the committee doing this, by dropping Florida 1 spot to 7, it's kind of like what we talked about last week with Iowa State, how the committee, for whatever reason, is in love with them. They're putting Iowa State at 6 because if there's a lot of chaos in front of them, they have no problem going Iowa State from 6 to number 4. Oklahoma, I think they're out of the playoffs because they're at 10. I don't think they can jump from 10 to 4. Florida now, all of a sudden, if they were to beat Alabama, who in my opinion is the best team in the country, I think Florida, they should not be in the playoff. Even if they beat Alabama, you lost to a terrible LSU team. Dropping 1 spot is an absolute joke. But I think the committee dropping them 1 spot, again, maybe like if Clemson were to lose to Notre Dame this weekend, maybe Ohio State plays Northwestern, a really close game. The committee is saying, if for whatever reason Florida is able to pull off the upset, we have no problem moving them from 7 to 4 because a 7 to 4 jump isn't really that significant. Where if they were to drop Florida to like number 10 or 11 or like 13 where they should have been dropped, then there'd be an issue. Again, I think that's the only thing I think makes sense as to why Florida drops 1 spot for losing again to an awful LSU team at home. LSU was missing like half of their players because there was either COVID problems, they were opting out of the season, there were injuries, they were like on their 3rd string quarterback, and they dropped 1 spot. So I just wanted to add that to Joaquin's super chat comment. Again, thank you, Joaquin. If you have any comments like this you want to throw up on the screen, you guys can donate to the super chat. Again, helps support the show, helps us do this on a week-to-week basis, and with all the comments going by, we're able to answer yours as best as we can. So Brady, I'll throw it to you before I share my thoughts if there's anything that you'd like to add from just overall this general top 25.
Yeah, I said it last week, and it was one of the things where, finally Indiana's jumped up on the poll. I've been an advocate for that, obviously, both biased and unbiased on that one. But I still think IU deserves to be higher than Oklahoma. I don't know if IU deserves to be a top 10 team. The AP and coaches poll both have them at 7, which is bold. But I think, Indiana at least deserves to be higher than Oklahoma, just with number of losses, with quality wins, things of that nature, and the close loss that they had to the number 4 team in the country. We'll get to the top 6, I'm guessing, in a minute, but I don't really know how I feel about having Iowa State there. I think if any team of that caliber, because Iowa State's a Power 5 team, you can't discredit them for being a Power 5 team, but I do not put them in the upper echelon of Power 5 teams. And I would assume you guys can almost all agree with me on that one. I think there are some things, within the top 13. I like the subtle movement. USC up to 13, I think is a good spot for them. They could be higher if they wanted any, Pac-12 consideration. But got to give major props. San Jose State making their way into the top 25 towards the end of the season. So 6-0 San Jose State, putting the Spartans there at 24. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, shout out to the Spartans right here of San Jose State coming in 6-0, their best season since like the 1920s or something like that. Again, I'm just going to kind of go from top to bottom pretty much and just share my initial thoughts on everything. I personally don't get this Iowa State hype whatsoever. I get that the last few weeks they've been probably the best team in the Big 12, but the reason I think that they're having them at 6 is again for the reason to put them in the top 4 should there be a lot of chaos. I just shared my thoughts on Florida. And the fact they moved down one spot's a joke. Now, guys, here's the thing. And I think they were talking about this on the selection show about this whole situation. If Florida moves down one spot by losing to LSU, you would think then this means Clemson pretty much guarantees themselves a playoff spot if they were to lose to Notre Dame. I mean, if you're Clemson, you're 9-1, you lose to Notre Dame in the ACC title game, assuming, again, it's a close game. Clemson, they should stay in the playoff. They should stay in the top 4. They should move down only one spot. Again, that's based off the committee's logic. At least I'm assuming, right? I mean, this guarantees Clemson a spot. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there with Clemson. But I would think for the most part, this guarantees it. I don't get this whole thing with Georgia. First off, Georgia, they're regretting not starting JT Daniels from the get-go. I get maybe the first week or two he was probably hurt, but ever since JT Daniels came into quarterback, they've been fantastic. But Georgia's top 2 games this season, they got blown out, and they lost to Florida, which now is not looking like a good loss whatsoever. So the fact that they're at 8, Cincinnati, Josh pretty much hit it perfectly, is that the committee's never shown any respect to Cincinnati. I get they had them at 6, I think, in the initial rankings, which was the highest a group of 5 has ever been, but Cincinnati's not playing, and they keep falling down in the rankings. But Ohio State, they're not playing, and they're staying exactly where they belong in the rankings. When it's all said and done, I mean, again, you can have A&M at 4 right now, you can have Ohio State at 5, it won't really matter, but if you're going to knock Cincinnati for not playing a game, then how come you're not going to knock Ohio State for not playing a game either? I just don't see the logic in that. And I think it is disrespectful for Cincinnati to keep moving them down 1. Indiana, we've talked about this in weeks past. They should be higher than 11 in the rankings, where they have 1 loss by 1 score to Ohio State, who the committee thinks is such a great team. They're getting disrespected. Coastal Carolina at number 12, I think that's disrespectful. I get they had a close game this weekend against Troy, but looking at Coastal Carolina's resume now, they're undefeated. They have a win against number 19 Louisiana. They have a win against number 17 BYU. They have a win against App State, who's probably like around 30 or something like that, and they have them at number 12. I don't necessarily understand, the logic behind that. And again, Louisiana, they come in at number 19. They beat the 6th best team in the country earlier in the season. The team that the committee thinks is all of a sudden a top 4 team in the country, they beat them by, I believe, 17 points on the road at Iowa State, and their lone loss of the season is by, I think, a field goal to Coastal Carolina, and you have Louisiana down at number 19. So, I mean, I've had my complaints in regards to the committee. I don't get it. Now, I will say this because I know we're going to bring it up later in the show. USC, they're not a top 4 team in the country. They have not played like a top 4 team in the country, maybe not even a top 10 team in the country. They are 5-0, but the committee, we talked about this in last week's show. I think Lyle was the one that brought it up. The committee kind of entered this season with the expectation these are the 4 best teams in the country, no matter what. Ohio State, I get they had a great win against Indiana, but if you're going to, praise them so much by having them at number 4, I mean, you got SC, they're sitting at number 13. I thought they were going to move to maybe like 11 or 10. I just don't understand that aspect where we've seen nothing from Ohio State. We have no problem putting them in, the top 4, but, we've seen the same amount of games from SC. They're the best team in the Pac-12. We're not going to move them up. So those are my just initial thoughts and everything. Also, shout out to San Jose State for being ranked. Way to go, you guys. Before I get to any of your guys' final takeaways and reactions, we do have some super chats I want to read really quickly. We got one from our man Nanners, comes in with a donation. If BYU were in the Pac-12 and went undefeated, could they actually make the playoffs? First off, if BYU was in a Power 5 conference, that would be fantastic for them. That would help them. But if they were in the Pac-12, as we've seen with Pac-12, how they treat them, no. Even if BYU would have played this year's record, beaten Coastal Carolina, they'd be maybe like 8, 9 at the highest. I'll let you guys just give a quick thing on that before I go to the next super chat and your guys' thoughts. But let's just say hypothetical situation. If BYU were in the Pac-12 and they were undefeated with their win against Coastal, where do you think they'd be in this top 25?
Oh, they'd be top 6. Easy.
You guys actually think so?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think if they're in the Pac-12 this year with a win over Coastal Carolina, I'm assuming that if they're in the Pac-12 and we're saying that they're 6-0 maybe, and then let's say they schedule the Coastal Carolina thing, which is kind of it's kind of an extreme scenario because that wouldn't work. But let's just say that they played in a Power 5 conference, only get played 6 games plus that Coastal win. No, I think that's a better resume than what Iowa State's got right now. I mean, one thing that we've all been so impressed with BYU this year is how explosive the offense has been and how fast-paced the team's been and how good the defense has been, despite playing against a lot of really not so great teams. But they were also willing to go out and play anybody, and they kept saying that, and we gave them some flack a little bit with the UW thing. But then they went out and they played Coastal, and they lost. They played tough, but they lost. Like, look, if they had won that game and they had gone undefeated in a Power 5 conference, I think that's still going undefeated in a Power 5 conference. I mean, look at what they're doing with Ohio State.
Right.
I mean, you can argue the alternative with USC, like USC is totally getting the cold shoulder here, but Ohio State, I mean, that's another hypocritical thing that the playoff committees continue to do this year, where you kind of mentioned, like, you come into the season, look, I know Ohio State was supposed to play more games than USC, for example. Ohio State was supposed to play like 7 or 8 games or whatever it was. They kind of came in and determined that those were their 4 teams. But, like, BYU in a Power 5 conference going undefeated with a game against Coastal and saying they win that game too, yeah. For me, that's a better resume than Ohio State.
I'd put them in the top 7. I'd probably put them at 7.
All right, well, there we go. So, yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see BYU just get to a Power 5, please. Our man Stephen Smith, I feel that the committee is valuing the Big 12 championship over the American championship in the Pac-12 because of Oklahoma. I think Iowa State is still ranked too high. I mean, yeah, for the most part, they moved Oklahoma up 1 spot. And it's going to have a lot riding on this Big 12 matchup. I mean, it's easy to say. So Stephen Smith, I like how every week Stephen Smith, who's probably like, one of the biggest Iowa State, at least that, watches our show on a week-to-week basis, probably the biggest Iowa State fan out there. And even he every week has kind of agreed that they're ranked too high. I remember a few weeks ago, or the other day I went back and looked, I think 3 weeks ago in just the AP poll, Iowa State was ranked like 19th. Now, granted, the AP poll is different than the playoff, but they went up from 19 to 6. That's too high of a climb for Iowa State. We got, I believe, here we go. We got one more super chat that we got to get to. For whatever reason, my thing's not letting me click it. Here we go, right here. To be fair, Clemson lost to Purdue a couple of years ago, so it is kind of consistent that Florida dropped only 1 spot. So I can't remember, or is he talking to Ohio State that lost to Purdue? Because I don't think Clemson... At least that I remember. Do you guys remember Clemson playing Purdue and losing a couple of years ago?
No, it had to be Ohio State. But the one thing that I'll say about here is Blake, I asked you to bring this one up because I had something about this, is that when you look at the College Football Playoff Committee, it doesn't matter what you did last season. It does not matter at all. So it's not, consistent. Oh, Florida only dropped 1 because, I don't know how many Ohio State fell, but I think they at least fell 3 or 4 against that loss for Purdue. So for the College Football Playoff Committee, similar to why Cincinnati isn't continuously staying even in the rankings, they've dropped a spot. It's as simple as, what have you done for me lately? Right? The committee's looking at it as, what have you done now? To start off the year, Blake, I think you said Iowa State, or earlier in the year, they were 19?
Just 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago in the AP poll, not college football, not the playoff poll, the AP poll. Granted, there's differences between those, but look what they've done lately. They've been playing well. They have great players, a great running back. So what have you done for me lately is that's going to bolster their resume. So, yeah, Florida dropped 1 because they kept it a close game. They played really well. Yes, there were dumb things that came into effect that had them lose the game, but they are still, I think, a top 6-7 team in the country.
Right. I agree. But again, it's one of those things. Also, I'm thinking this is probably, he meant Clemson and Pitt. So either Clemson, Pitt, Ohio State, Purdue, probably one of those things. But it's one thing if you drop 1 spot for losing, a game. I think Clemson fell from 1 to 3. Do you remember when they lost to Notre Dame? Did they go from 1 to 3, or was it just 1 to 4? Then they moved up and saw to Ohio State.
I want to say they dropped to. Well, okay, so that was when the AP poll was still a thing. So in the AP poll, they dropped to 4, and then the actual committee had them at 3.
Okay, so it's kind of like 1 to 3. It's just, again, this LSU team is bad. When you take into account, again, they were missing like half their team, so many things. I think moving them down 1 was a bad one. So we got another super chat though from a man, Connor. Connor, Virginia Tech. Josh, you your opposite picks worked this past week. You said, I'm going to pick Virginia, and Virginia Tech came out with the victory. So if you guys want one of your teams to win, beg Josh to pick the opposite, and it's going to come true.
Yeah, DM me on Twitter, and I'll pick them.
There you go. Do these seasons that schools like Coastal, Cincinnati, and BYU are having increase their chances of potentially moving into a Power 5 whenever realignment occurs, or do they need to string along a couple more good seasons? Well, first off, I would like to see BYU, they just need to move somewhere. Like, they just need to move somewhere. They need to get rid of being independent. I think the American Conference, sooner or later, needs to somehow make it the Power 6, because the American Conference, and we've seen in the last few years, they got some solid teams. And I think if they were to make the move and they were to make them a Power 6, I think it would make that conference that much better. And Coastal, I mean, I think they're going to be in the Sun Belt for a while just because they have one good year. Even Appalachian State, they've had success for so many years now, and they're still in the Sun Belt. Coastal, I think they're in it for the long haul, but I've been on the board of making the American Conference part of the Power 6, because I think that conference has a lot of just really good teams, and overall I think it would just make college football better, making them or adding the conference to the Powers.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we're going to see a team. I would even throw Liberty in there. Liberty played a handful of ACC teams this year, and for the most part played really well. I think that's a team that you might see join a Power 5 conference, not just based off of, where they are geographically. I think obviously the one that makes the most sense is BYU, either joining the Big 12 or the Pac-12. I think that makes a lot of sense. And again, like we did this in our conference realignments. Like, for example, I had Cincinnati in the Big 10. I think that makes a lot of sense for not only the conference, but for Cincinnati. And it's something that would help not just Cincinnati football, for example, but that's a team that you could plug into the Big 10 across every sport in that athletic department. And I think that's something that you'd see with BYU too, if they wanted to join the Big 12 or the Pac-12. But with BYU, there's more like, I don't want to say like actually political, but it's like political. I use in air quotes a reason why they probably will not join a Power 5 conference.
We didn't even mention Boise State in that conversation as well, which is obviously, I think, of all those schools listed, the first to be poached into the Power 5. If, one conference isn't absorbed to make it Power 6, but if one team is going to get poached to go to a new Power 5 conference, I think it's going to be Boise State, with BYU right there. Coastal, like Josh said, it's the relevancy factor. I don't think they have enough resume to do so immediately. And then Cincy's always been interesting and intriguing because they're good across the board in almost every sport. So it would make a lot of sense for them to do that. And also, what about App State? We didn't mention App State at all being brought into one of those. They've been a consistent team over the last 10, 15 years or so. So that could be another team to look out for, potentially getting poached into a Power 5.
We need conference realignment. We need it again.
Yes.
It's been too long.
Yes.
Make college football fun again. There you go. So thanks, Connor, for the donation as always, my man. How about Virginia Tech this week against, what was it? The Wahoos, as Josh deemed them last week. Wahoos. So again, if there's anything you'd like to hear our thoughts on, or just any comments you guys have, you guys can be like Connor and be like everyone else so far that's donated to the super chat. Could be again $1, $2. Our man Connor came in with $20. So each of you guys gets a nice $5 footlong from Subway coming your way, because that's how math works, and we divide it all. So $5 each coming your way. So again, if there's anything you'd like to hear our thoughts on or a comment on anything, you guys can hit up that super chat. But guys, enough of the college football playoff committee. Why don't we get to our stars of the week? How does that sound for you guys while Brady gets it up? Any other notable takeaways you guys just have in regards to just the college football playoff and how they've done so far?
Did you want to bring up that Ohio State thing now or later?
With SC?
Yeah.
I think I say bring it up later. That way we can quickly get through just some of our stars of the week and whatnot, and then we can talk about that as a topic for a bit. But I do want to get to our stars of the week, because normally it's kind of later in the show, but I kind of want to get it earlier in the show. So we can get to the stars of the week, and then maybe after that, we can briefly mention the Ohio State USC thing and what you were mentioning in the group chat the other day.
Cool.
There you go. I had it in order because I thought you were going to go to it now, but there you go.
There we go. All right, guys. Stars of the week.
Blake, by the way.
His is on the left, so we'll go to Lyle to kick it off first.
Well, it's been a while since we've seen LSU guys on here. Well, I guess except the 1 week I had Derek Stingley, but he was out this week. LSU had basically everybody out this week, and they come away with a win in the Swamp in what 2020 would deem to be a large crowd in Gainesville. and beat the 6th-ranked Gators. And it's due to these two guys right here. Max Johnson, who's their 3rd-string quarterback. He goes 21 for 36, 239 yards, 3 touchdowns. He added another 50 with his legs. And then Cade York, I mean, we saw it on display last year when LSU was on their national title run. This guy was a freshman last year. It's pretty clear, even though he hasn't been in the spotlight much in 2020, this guy will be kicking on Sundays for sure. He hits the 50-plus yarder for the game winner. He hits he had all his field goals. He had all his extra points as he should, but he was an absolute unit on Saturday. And Max Johnson, again, a guy who did not have Jamar Chase. He's been out all year. Did not have Terrace Marshall. Didn't have Eric Gilbert. No Derek Stingley on the defensive side of the ball. He took matters into his own hands, and he was the real star of the game in that win over Florida. So these two guys, Max Johnson, Cade York, my co-star of the week.
57 yards in the fog.
Impressive.
Yeah, insanity.
It was wild. That camera angle they used for the 4th quarter because of the fog was super cool too. They used the sky cam almost the majority of it.
I feel like this year we've had more fog games than in years past because we already saw there was the Oregon State game. There was another game. I think it was like a group of 5 conference game that had gnarly fog this year already, but a couple of big fog games this year that all have crazy endings. For me, look, like I could have gone Keaton Slovis, but how could I pick Talanoa Hufanga last week and not pick him again this week when he had 17 tackles, 2 TFLs, an interception, a forced fumble, and he was the national player of the week. This is a leader of a USC defense that literally could not stop screen passes in the first half. I mean, I don't have the actual number because I didn't go back and count all of them. But like in the first half, I'm pretty sure Dorian Thompson-Robinson threw the ball downfield like twice. And then in the second half, I think he did it like 3 or 4 times. And he had over 300 yards passing and like 4 touchdowns. USC could not stop the screen passes in the first half. And then finally in the second half, SC's defense showed up. They started tackling really well, and they were led by Hufanga. And 17 tackles, the most tackles for an SC player since last year when Hufanga had 18 against UCLA. So really impressive. I think somebody else mentioned it last week. I think it might have been Brady. This guy's like the second coming of Troy Polamalu, and it just also happens to be a USC player. And Talanoa Hufanga, man, let's see what he does this week against Shucks and the Ducks.
Josh, I think it's pronounced Polamalu.
Polamalu?
Yeah.
That might be it.
Troy Polamalu. Anyways, I got mine to Herm Edwards for my star of the week this week. All aboard the Herm train. You know, ASU finished the year 1-2, as Josh says. They finished the year 1-2. Majority of their games canceled. The opening game against USC was wild. But this week, I think, made up for losing 2 games and having the rest of them canceled. Because like I said last week, who cares? As long as you win 1 game on the year and it's U of A, that's all that matters. Opening kickoff to the house. Herm and the Sun Devils put up 70 points, and I'm upset U of A scored 1 touchdown. Like, I am upset they scored 1 touchdown. And Herm, in his career, in 3 games now, 3 games, is undefeated against the University of Arizona and said, "You gone" to Kevin Sumlin. So I'm going Herm Edwards.
Yeah, that game easily could have been like 80 or 90. ASU had the missed field goal. They had a few possessions where they definitely could have scored more. I mean, they had 63 entering the 4th quarter, I think. So they could have kept piling it on. Also, shout out to Jackson He. The first Chinese-born player to get a touchdown. The dude's a tank. I didn't realize he's like 250. I mean, the dude is an absolute, what is Josh, as a wagon? He's a wagon.
Dude, when he got that handoff, he got hit in the backfield. And still scored the touchdown. Like, he ran that dude over.
Dude's an absolute wagon. Before I get to mine, Connor comes in. Braxton Burmeister is my star of the week, highest graded quarterback of the week, and saved Justin Fuente's job. I looked up his stats from this past weekend. 212 yards, 1 touchdown, added 30 yards on the ground. And yeah, I think Connor said this in our group chat the other day about how he's annoyed now that Fuente's job got saved. But then he actually changed his star of the week because he actually made Josh his star of the week. So, Josh, you were officially Connor's star of the week for the reverse psychology by picking Virginia to win. Josh, I'm going to have you pick against all my picks for this weekend when I go to State Line to make my picks, so that way all of them come through and I can win a buttload of money.
Brady, can you make a graphic with just me and then Connor's pick that's just as me?
We'll do. Blake, also real quick, Jackson Heath 5'9", 220.
Oh, 220. I thought I saw somewhere that he was 245, unless he lost a ton of weight. Because I thought he was like 245. But
unless he
still an
put on a
absolute
bunch of
unit.
weight. Unless he put on
Still
a
an
bunch of weight
absolute
throughout the
unit.
year.
Going to mine, guys. I got 2 stars of the week, and that is the North Carolina running back duo. For the most part, I think that I can't remember if it was this exact number, the 544 or 554. I think it's the most rushing yards ever by a duo in college football history. Again, I might be wrong on that, but I have a feeling that that's what I heard the other day. Overall, what a game. Michael Carter, 24 carries, 308 yards, 2 touchdowns. Javonte Williams, 23 carries, 236 yards, 3 touchdowns. Guys, both these guys have over 1,000 rushing yards. I remember a few weeks ago I sent a photo of this in the group chat because they were averaging like a total of 283 yards per game, all-purpose yards. And I said, who do you guys think is number 2 all time? And it was Reggie Bush and Lendale White. These guys are a better duo than Reggie Bush and Lendale White. I feel like we're not hearing about them as much. Both of them have over 1,000 rushing yards. Javonte Williams has 19 rushing touchdowns. I think Michael Carter has like 9, but I think he has 1,400 rushing yards. And this is a complete split committee. Like this past weekend, nearly identical carries. I think one had 24, one had 23. On the season, I think like Javonte Williams is like 156 carries and Michael Carter has like 152 carries. So just imagine if you were to take just one of these guys and they were just the lone running back in the backfield, they'd be a Heisman frontrunner almost. You'd have like 2,000 plus yards, 25 touchdowns. But what a game for them this past weekend against Miami, the number 10 Miami Hurricanes. So that's my dual star of the week for that one. A twofer, just like what Lyle did.
Yeah, and I couldn't fit both the players on your graphic, so sorry.
That's okay. Guys, before we move on to UniWatch, and then before we get on to our Ohio State USC talk, Yeehaw Strength came in. I wonder if they probably missed our talk on this about 15, 20 minutes ago, but in case they did, we'll just give a brief synopsis. Is it disrespectful that Florida fell 1 spot? You must have missed my rant because 100% it is disrespectful that they fell 1 spot. Guys, do you think it's disrespectful that Florida, after losing to LSU, dropped 1 spot?
Yeah, it's disrespectful to all of the other teams in the past who have lost a late game in the season and dropped more than 1 spot. And it's really disrespectful to teams like Cincinnati.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge compliment to LSU, though. How about that?
There you go.
LSU, I was surprised they didn't come flying back in at like number 15 this week.
But yeah, committee just brings them in. So thank you, Yeehaw Strength. Again, if there's anything you'd like to hear our thoughts on, comments, anything like that, you guys can donate to the super chat and we'll throw up your comments. And again, I say this every week. Unfortunately, you can't pick the color. It's just what you're given. So Yeehaw Strength, hopefully you're fine with a light blue color. But while Brady gets up our UniWatch for this upcoming week, per popular demand, I'm going to give an update on our Patreon league because, guys, we are officially in the playoffs now. I forgot to mention this last week for the playoffs, so let me just quickly get this up on my phone while I update everyone. Now, again, these are for all the people that donated to our Patreon prior to the season. So, again, if you still want to donate to our Patreon, you guys can get into a fun little Twitter group message. You guys get a lot of cool benefits. It's a whole lot of fun, but this was for everyone that donated prior to the season starting. Guys, this past weekend, let me get the standings and the scoreboard up from up here. This is going to be a fun one this upcoming week, guys, because there's only 4 playoff teams that are remaining. I don't know why this isn't working at all. I'll just start with mine. I took down Team Kvido. I'm definitely butchering that or messing that up. I won 163 to 150, so I move on to the next round of the playoffs. Our man Schaefer highlight show. He had a first-round bye for having the top record in the group. BK comes in and wins 162 to 161 against Country Road. Take Mahomes. So Brady squeaked by
the most stressful fantasy weekend of my life.
It is worth pointing out that Brady Klein won both of his fantasy playoff games in at the last second too.
In our other league that we're in, I was down 15 points going into the final game and had Kareem Hunt remaining.
There you go.
Had a
so he comes out on top.
Chance of winning.
And the final one that's in the playoff is our man Andrew Koster, because why not? He had a first round bye. So this upcoming week, guys, it's going to be me versus Josh. Brady versus Andrew Koster. Drop your comments down below as to which fantasy team you think will come out on top. It's going to be a fun one. As Josh said, it's kind of a drag that I'm facing him because he's facing Brady in our main ASU league. So unfortunately, he couldn't be facing him in both. But I think he's also just a little worried that I'm going to hand him the L this week.
I don't know, Blake. I didn't set a lineup this week, and on a bye week, I still put up 223, which was by far the most in the league.
Are you serious?
Without setting my lineup. So Thursday, like second quarter of the Rams game. I'm a Rams fan, if people don't know. Watching the Rams-Patriots game on Thursday, and I'm sitting back. I'm enjoying the game because the Rams are up, and I sat up straight, and I was like, oh, my God. I didn't set my fantasy lineup. And then I went to check, and I was like, oh, yeah. Look at me getting the number 1 overall seed and buys in both leagues.
So we're going to let you guys know next week with how that goes. But yeah, drop a comment in the live chat to think who thinks is going to win between me and Josh, Brady, and Andrew Koster. Lyle, unfortunately, your team did not make the playoffs, but that's okay. Next year.
Throwback to bringing the Hurts, the Big L. What were our other team names from last year?
Who was bringing the Hurts? Was that me?
Mine was I masturbated.
Yes, it is.
It was.
Mine was something to do with Jonathan Taylor.
Something like that. Guys, Dan, do you think Iowa State will make the playoff? I'll reword the question from our man Dan. So it's weird. Dan's got a Longhorn thing, but I guess maybe he's a Big 12 supporter or he just really hates Oklahoma. Guys, what percent do you give Iowa State of making the college football playoff?
You know what?
3.
3?
Yeah, it's going to be the 4 teams in the top 4. Like, I'm very adamant about that. Like, I think 2-loss Clemson would be in over undefeated Cincinnati.
Well, like I said, because now they're just going to move down 1 spot because that's what they did with Florida. So Clemson moves down 1.
That's why I didn't waste my energy on the big playoff picture thing because I think at this point it's almost locked in unless Ohio State loses that it's going to be these 4 teams.
If I'm Iowa State, I would go into this next game not worried about anything else, just do your job. Because let's be honest, if you beat the number 10 team in the country or the number 9 team, whatever Oklahoma's at right now, if you go in and you beat them in the conference title game, if I'm Iowa State, I'm leaving that game with a win thinking I did what I needed to do to make the college football playoff. So I'll give them a 15% chance to make it. I'm being generous because if they win as the number 6 team in the country, winning their title game against a team like Oklahoma, that should be enough to get in. But they obviously need a lot of help because they're not going to jump over anybody for beating Oklahoma. So get some help, but do your job. And dude, I don't know. That's the thing. If you do your job, you shouldn't have any, misgivings about it.
Less than or equal to 10%.
Oh, math class?
I will give them a 7% chance. How about that? I'll give them a 7% chance. All right, guys, one more before we move on. Not a question, but it's just for movie fans saying the playoffs are a joke. I feel bad for Cincinnati. Yes, we are. Cincinnati, again, we talked about this earlier in case you missed it. They've been getting shafted and screwed left and right, and not in the good way.
They've been getting appreciated, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think I said this last week. Every week when he does his interview with Reese Davis, he gives some different reason for why they're moving teams somewhere where it's like 1 week, we really take head-to-heads. We really take that into consideration. The next week is amount of games played. The next week is strength of schedule. The next week is I don't know, how cool your mascot is. It's like a different reason every week.
Who would win in a mascot fight?
Oh, Pistol Pete.
Oklahoma is in last.
Pistol Pete would. All right, guys.
I guess that's why Iowa State is so high. I get it now.
Cyclones. Yeah.
They're Cyclones. All right, guys, time to get to our uni watch, and then we'll get to a few other fun segments. So, Brady, load up those bad boys. Load up those beautiful, fresh-looking uniforms, and let's talk some unis.
Yeah, so I'm starting things off hot here, boys. These are the best Northwestern uniforms. The other ones are unique. Nobody else has any uniforms like them in the country. Good for them. These are so sick. I wait for these uniforms to come out every single year. And like the Gothic text on the front for Northwestern, the all black, the purple, and the metallic gold highlights. I think they're awesome. And look, even if you ignore the jersey, that's cool with the Gothic text and the numbers and everything, and you ignore the pants, the helmet by itself is just absolutely badass. Just matte black, the purple N on the side with gold outlines. This looks like This looks like a Washington. This looks like a better version of the Washington blackout uniform, and the Washington blackout uniforms are also awesome. So that's how I feel about these. Mixing in that gold, fantastic. Northwestern, good luck this week. Shout out to the main man, Peter Warren. We'll see what happens.
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, how closely would you rate your bicep compared to Peyton Ramsey's there?
Good Lord, I didn't even notice that. Oh my God.
No, he's hitting the weights hard, Peyton Ramsey.
Like, it looks painful almost. like, look at that thing.
So, side note, I think I texted you guys this earlier. Have you guys seen the guns on Parker Lewis, USC's kicker?
Parker Lewis can't lose, Josh.
Parker Lewis, first of all, missed a field goal this week by like he shanked this thing. It's still like if it was accurate, it would have been good from 90 yards. This dude is like a weapon. Like he looks like this guy, and he's a kicker. That's beside the point.
Hey, at least he's no Penn State kicker.
Oh, dude, remember him?
Oh, he was great.
He was
Dad
awesome.
bod for life.
Oh, yes. Hey,
Another
Josh,
Chattanooga kicker.
yes. Also, Josh, you got your matching striping on the helmet and on the shoulders. You got
Look at that. How cool
matching
is that?
striping.
How cool is that?
Matching striping. All right, next.
All right, so this week in the poll, like we do every week on Twitter, we post on our Twitter account a couple hours before the show because we want to hear from you on your favorite uniform of the week. And this week, the nominees felt like not only because they had good jerseys, but because they obviously had their matchup this week, Army-Navy deserved to be nominated. So they were 2 of the 3 nominees. Florida State was a nominee. And then, as always, you can comment below and vote other. 44.4% of the votes, Navy won the poll this week. And while they didn't win, they put out some pretty nice jerseys, as you can see. You got mostly the all-white, and you got the Navy on the shoulders. You got the Navy helmets, the gold stripe across the helmet going vertically. I don't know. Navy put out some pretty nice jerseys.
Josh, not only did we have multiple fall games this past year, we had multiple on Saturday. This one was just
– oh, that's right. This one was wild,
weather.
too.
Wild weather.
And this uniform matchup just in general – like, again, I said this on last week's show. I think it's the best Army-Navy uniform matchup we've ever had. Bad.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice.
All right, mine for this week, I went with, if it will switch over. Nope. I went with Memphis this week. I love what Memphis usually does with their uniforms. The tiger striping is always a good addition, matching it sort of on the helmet and across the shoulders. And you can't go wrong with black and blue, especially when you have some silver and gray accents on it as well. So Memphis with the blue face mask, with the black helmet and blue metallic stripes. I mean, I think this is one of their best overall uniforms they've put together this season. And I know they wear it every year, but this is still one of my favorite I've seen all season long.
Yeah, those are nice. I like it.
And
now mine's actually not a uniform. It's a helmet. Well, I mean, I guess it is uniform, not a jersey, I should say, the helmet, because this picture, it doesn't even do it justice. Watching this game live, seeing how these looked, these Miami helmets, the jersey itself I thought was okay, but this helmet was something special. Miami, they need to wear these every week. The black, I think the U should have been a tad bigger, I think. That would have made this more, but I mean, again, it's tough to explain. I think you guys can back me up that seeing this like live on TV as the game was going on, they just popped, they stood out. I think these are probably some of my favorite helmets, if not my favorite helmets of the entire college football season. Miami, I get it. You want to kind of go back to your old retro look, what they've been doing the last few years, which I totally like, I totally love. But you got to get this helmet in on a more consistent basis. I mean, this thing was spot on. This was beautiful. And hey, if you're going to lose by 40, you might as well look good doing it. So that's exactly what they did.
Why didn't you pick the full uniform? Was it?
I just didn't. I didn't like him that much. I didn't like the jersey. I didn't like the way the numbers were. I didn't like how it was just orange. There was like not really a good outline. I just thought the jersey itself was okay. The helmet though was just, like I said, ooh.
The metallic
Beautiful.
orange face mask. But the one thing that I noticed is when they showed a close up during the game, which was really cool, is if you look at the stripe on the helmet, it's a bunch of small stripes.
Yeah.
Which was
pretty shiny looking too, which I liked. So
you can't go wrong with matte black helmet.
You really can't go wrong. So while we get to one more segment, Blake's Bets, then we'll get to the Ohio State topic. We got a super chat that came in from someone else, and they say Northwestern over Ohio State and Oklahoma over Iowa State. Bama over Florida, Notre Dame over Clemson, and Tulsa over Cincinnati. Does Northwestern make the playoffs? We've talked about this in weeks past. Even if Northwestern can pull off the miracle upset, no chance, barring, I think, anything. I think there's probably a 0% chance that Northwestern can get in. I think everyone can agree. I think that was a question someone asked us last week. This is a fun one, though, guys. But again, can we all agree here? 0% chance for Northwestern, even if they beat Ohio State?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This all-state playoff predictor, I should have had Brady save a photo to put it up, but it's okay. All season, it's been just all over the place. It's been awful. It gave USC a 49% chance of reaching the college football playoff, which I believe was the fourth highest, I want to say. I think it was higher odds than Clemson, higher odds than Iowa State, higher odds than probably, I think, Cincinnati. I think the only top three in front of them were Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame. I get it. USC, they're undefeated. They could be Pac-12 champs. But a 50% chance of making the playoff. I don't know what this all-state playoff predictor, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it just goes based off record and the chance to win the Pac-12 title, and it thinks, hey, you're undefeated and you're going to win your conference. That means you're in. But I think a few weeks ago, what was it, last week, Brady, when Indiana had the fourth best odds?
Yeah,
in the college football playoffs. So
it was right when Ohio State had their first game canceled and IU, before the Big Ten totally changed their rules to favor their golden child.
So if he, again, I want to see SC in the playoff. I want to see a Pac-12 team represented. I want to see an SC Bama rematch. I think we know we know how that would go down. But yeah, all-state playoff predictor. If any of you out there follow that religiously and rely on it, please don't. Please don't.
Mm-mm.
No. So again, thank you someone else for your super chat donation. Again, we have a Q&A coming up in about 10, 15 minutes, guys. So if there's anything you want to ask us, any questions you have, any topics you'd like to have us discuss, you guys can hit us up in that super chat. We have a little extra time this week, so we're going to be rolling through some more questions. But before we get to that, Brady, I'm going to let you get that graphic loaded up, because while you do that, I'm going to quickly go over
the USC
the
one?
SC Ohio State one, because I think Josh also has stuff that he wants to talk about in regards to that subject. Blake's bets. For the third week in a row, we had one game canceled. For the third week in a row, we went 2-2 on the season. I don't have it up anymore. I exited out, but on the season, I am 34-23, so a fantastic record. We are doing great. Yet again, guys, for about the 8th week in a row, I'm going to be going back to Vegas to place some more bets this weekend. Here are the 5 that I'm going to be betting on. So if you, again, out there, maybe you're in a state where it's legal, you like any, sports betting of any kind, these are the 5 I'm going to be betting on. Ohio State minus 20.5 over Northwestern. Alabama minus 17 over Florida. Buffalo minus 13 over Ball State. Lyle, I asked you this, I think, yesterday, but I'm at this point, I'm leaning with Clemson. I'm leaning with Clemson minus 10. There's some Reese Davis stat that he tweeted out that, like, the last however many years, whenever there's been a rematch of, like, two, like, top-ranked teams when they play each other, the losing team has won by at least 21 points all 3 times. Again, Reese Davis has the full tweet, but that made me want to go with Clemson. And the 5th and final one, I'm going to go with Arizona State minus 7 against Oregon State. So those are my 5 Blake's bets of the weeks. Again, you guys can go win yourself some money. My percentage on the year is fantastic. So hey, if you want free money, go bet on those games. But Brady, we have about 5 minutes before we get to our Q&A. Throw up this interesting graphic that I took during the playoff show earlier, because I thought it was quite interesting. I know Josh, he had a lot he wanted to say in regards to this subject earlier. So Josh, since you're kind of the one that wanted to lead this to begin with, you don't have to necessarily bring up this graphic right here, but just overall what your thoughts and opinions were on this whole situation in regards to Ohio State playing 5 games and essentially being gifted as if they've played 10, and USC playing 5 games and being gifted as if they're middle of the pack team.
Yeah, and this kind of worked out. So I had some notes written down about this for the playoff, and then you sent this graphic to our chat and was like, we need to talk about this. So basically, for those listening, it's a resume comparison between SC and Ohio State. Obviously, SC is at 13th, Ohio State's number 4, and looks like they beat Northwestern, and Ohio State looks like they're a playoff team. Obviously, their strength of schedule, SC's has a higher ranked strength of schedule. Ohio State is 1-0 against top 25 teams. USC hasn't played one. But like Blake said, Ohio State's being treated as if they're a top 4 team in the country, which they very well might be, and USC is being treated as if they're irrelevant. And I think what's just disappointing about this is I didn't come here to say that USC is a top 4 team in the country, let alone a top 6 or a top 8 or whatever. I just don't know. We've seen SC play 5 games. So there's just we don't know about SC. On the other side of things, Ohio State came into the season ranked 4th and has not at all played like a top 4 team in college football. And they just don't have the wins to back it up either. I mean, for a while they were claiming that a Penn State win was big, and Penn State's more irrelevant than half the teams that USC played. Their only win is an Indiana win, which Indiana is like number 12 in the country right now, or whatever they are, or 11. And Indiana should have won that game. Like, Indiana had the chance to win that game and didn't. And I think the one difference is Indiana had a chance and then couldn't, and turned the ball over a little bit here and there. And then when you look at USC's narrow wins, outplayed Arizona by a lot, just took a lot of penalties, got outplayed by ASU and scored 14 points in 2 minutes to win the game, outplayed UCLA in the second half, and walloped Washington State. Like, if there's, and I can already see it, there's like a lot of hatred already coming at USC here. And I'll come right out and say it. It's because it's USC. That's why you guys hate them. But also at the same time, like the argument against USC should be the exact same as it is for Ohio State. That's all. Yeah, no one's saying that USC is a top 4 team. I think people are trying to say that Ohio State and USC have literally the exact same resume. And
I'm going to come
USC is being shunned.
Yeah, I'm going to come in because we're not saying that SC is a top 4 team. We're not saying that USC is a top 10 team. Hell, we might not even be saying USC is a top 15 team. What we're saying is that the committee, again, you look at this right now, strength of schedule, strength of record is what that is. I get it. Ohio State, they have to win over the top 25 team. Both these teams are 5-0. They've both been very underwhelming. But the thing is, it's only been 5 games. Over the course of a 10-game season, Ohio State, they can go 10-0. They can win the Big Ten title game. They're deserving of being in. SC, they can go 10-0. They can win the Pac-12 title game. They'd be deserving of getting in. What we're saying is the fact that both these teams have played only 5 games. They're both likely going to win their conference title. But the committee is clearly saying, well, coming into the season, we expected Ohio State to be a top 4 team. We didn't really have many expectations for USC. Whereas, again, SC, if this would have been a normal season, how do we know that SC wouldn't have finished the season 10-0, or I guess 12? I mean, well, to be fair, they would have played Bama and Notre Dame. They probably would have lost those 2 non-conference games. But this is a team that definitely would have finished the Pac-12 season probably undefeated. But we'll just never know because it's only 5 games. That's what we're saying. It's just you don't know just how good these teams are quite yet, and they're both pretty evenly balanced teams. Again, we're not coming here and saying USC should be in the top 4. We're not saying that at all. The All-State Playoff Predictor, they're saying they should be in the top 4. We're not saying that. We're just saying the committee doesn't really make as much sense, again, by their logic, saying, well, Ohio State, we just expect them to be a top 4 team when they have proven just as much as USC had. I know USC's had some really close wins against some pretty bad teams. Ohio State, again, they beat Indiana by 7. That's a game Indiana probably should have won, where we think Indiana was the better team. But Ohio State, they haven't looked good either. We've talked about this in weeks past. As of right now, we'd put Texas A&M over them. We'd put like Florida over them before they lost to LSU. So that's all we're saying. Because I know, again, people in the comments were saying, how could you put USC in the top 4 as a playoff team? That's not what we're saying. We're just saying, look at the comparison right here, and how can you make the case that Ohio State has clearly proven that they're a top 4 team in the country?
I do have one thing quickly to say about this graphic that sort of caught my eye, Blake, as soon as you sent it. Can we talk about how good Stanford women's basketball is?
Hey, man. Representing the Pac-12. Hey, we can't do anything in the Pac-12, but I'll be damned if our women's basketball in the Pac-12 isn't one of the best out there.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
Fantastic. This from Drew right here. Love the content, guys. This graphic is kind of weird, though. Doesn't account for game control or margin. Strength of schedule also means less this year with no conference games. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's all over the place, especially with how bad, I guess, teams in, the Big Ten have been, and I guess how things have gone in games, which, again, this isn't like a full serious discussion in regards to they should be in the playoff. This was something we just wanted to bring up for a topic of conversation, just to kind of get a roundtable on all our thoughts. Here, what your guys' thoughts are, because, again, Ohio State, if they were to play SC, Ohio State would likely win that game. I think we all can agree. But again, it's just the fact that with only 5 games on your schedule so far, only 5 games as a resume, we'll see how Ohio State does in the playoff when they're placed against a good team, because 5-0. I heard this not too long ago, but it was like, this many years ago, these teams started 5-0, 6-0, and they finished the season 8-4, 7-5, 9-3. Not that Ohio State would get to that mark, but aside from Indiana, Ohio State hasn't played anyone. They haven't proven anything, but I guess they're going to get their chance, when they're selected to the playoffs. So, Drew, thanks for the donation. Appreciate your super chat donation. Guys, anything else anyone wants to add before we move on to our Q&A?
I think that these two teams, I think at least a lot of the hate that SC seems to be getting is the narrow wins. Ohio State's had a couple of not blowouts too. The Big Ten's been just as bad as the Pac-12 this year. I do think that both of these teams, I'll say both, even though Ohio State's number 4 team in the country, I do think both of these teams would get a lot more respect and probably would be even better than 5-0 if we had played a whole season. Because you get to see these teams start with their non-conference games before getting into Pac-12 play or Big Ten play, and start to figure things out a little bit. Meanwhile, you have these two teams playing 5 games, not knowing what's going to happen each week. And you have the Pac-12 cancel the season and then start it randomly in the middle of college football season. So I think that's one issue that the Pac-12 kind of had this year, is they kind of screwed themselves. And it definitely doesn't help that SC's best the two best teams on SC's schedule would have been Colorado, who got canceled, who they should be playing in the Pac-12 title this week, but the conference really screwed over all of the teams participating, and ASU, who played 3 games. And I think we all thought ASU was going to be really good this year. So I think that's what kind of screws over not just SC, but the whole Pac-12. So, and Ohio State, they have a chance to obviously make a statement this week. Really quickly, touching back on what you said earlier during the Stars of the Week, Blake, is that the duo of White and Trainum have the ability to be an elite duo such as those that you mentioned. Josh, you just brought up ASU, and that just reminded me to say that. I meant to say it earlier, but yeah. They will be. So we're not trying to say SC's deserving of a playoff spot. I just thought it was an interesting topic of discussion. Wanted to hear your guys' thoughts. But guys, it's time now for the Q&A. So if there's any questions you guys have for us in regards to playoff rankings, in regards to games, players, anything, hypothetical situations, fun ones, I'm sure we're going to be getting one from Short Round later in the show. You guys can hit us up in the live chat. If there's something you really want to have answered and you want to support the show, as you've been seeing all show, people have been donating via the super chat. It could be $1, $2, $1 million, however much you'd like to donate. We appreciate any kind of donation whatsoever. So if there's something you'd like to hear our thoughts on, again, the comments are going like crazy. It's the best way to go. So this one actually comes in from our man Steven Smith. This is kind of a fun one, guys. Who thinks he's going to win the Big 12 championship? Steven Smith. Stay tuned for our pick'ems later in the show. We're going to allow some more time for pick'ems. This week, we're only going to do conference championships. There's officially 10 guys. I said jokingly earlier there's 6, but I was forgetting about Conference USA, the good old MAC, all that fun stuff. So Steven Smith, if you want to hear our thoughts, who we're going to be picking, who I'm going to be picking this upcoming weekend when I make a bet in Vegas, stay tuned for that when we get to our pick'ems in 15, 20 minutes or so. Yeah. For your pick'ems, are you going to do a 10-team $1 parlay? No, I think I'm going to do a 10-team teaser, though. Okay. Got to do the teasers. The 7-point teaser. Bro, I'm so upset. This is totally irrelevant, but every time I make a bet, I take a photo on my phone of my bet slip, and then if it wins, I like to keep it. If it loses, I just delete it. I forgot to delete one from when I was there a week ago. It was a 10-team 7-point teaser that I did. I just put $100 on it. Would have paid like $5,000 because it was like a 10-team teaser, and I had Oklahoma State. They had to, I think it was like win. They were a +4. They lost, I think, by 7 points or something like that. So it killed it. So I just threw it out. I went back and I looked at it. 9 of the 10 hit. Oh. It's Oklahoma State that screwed me by a few points. I think it's when they played TCU. So I was that close to like $5,000 just because Oklahoma, and this was like the morning game too. So it was right away. So I just said, I'm already out of it. I'm going to throw it out right here. So Oklahoma State, you screwed me out of about $5,000. That was, I hate them so much. Did Virginia Tech make the right choice keeping Fuente at least for next year, or should they have used this season with its craziness as an excuse to get rid of him?
Well, we could briefly talk about the whole Gus Malzahn thing because we didn't really talk about that. I guess we can answer that in the Q&A right now. I think in a season like this with how much is going on, I don't think you should fire any coach unless something significant happens, unless something major happens. So Virginia Tech, they haven't, I guess, lived up to expectations this year, but I don't think they should have fired him. I think, what are they, 4-4 now, I want to say, so there's the 500. Keep him for next year. If, you go 3-5 to start the year, then you give him the axe.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. The only one that I really understand this year for somebody being on the hot seat and actually getting fired is Kevin Sumlin. Mm-hmm. And I understand that one. Arizona's not playing this week. They're on a 12-game losing streak. They finished 0-5. Like, they got beat 70-7. That's the one I understand. I agree with Blake. Like, I wouldn't fire Justin Fuente. At Texas, Tom Herman's got to keep his job. At Michigan, we'll see what the hell goes on with Harbaugh. But I think that this is a year where maybe you kind of don't pull the trigger quickly on some of these coaches. And obviously, a guy like Harbaugh's been around for a while, and Herman's been around for a while. Clay Helton's been around for a while. I think you got to be a little bit patient given the current climate of college football.
I think if any other coaches are to get fired, the one that I've thought a lot about and I've heard a lot about potentially getting fired because I'm pretty local to it is Jeff Brom up at Purdue. So ever since the Ohio State one, it's all been downhill from there. So that's another guy that you could look at potentially getting axed as well.
I will say this, guys, really quickly, again, since we didn't mention it, just quick thoughts, because I want to get through the Q&A as many as we can in the next 10 minutes, because at 6:15, I want to start our pick'ems. Your just quick reaction to Auburn paying $21.5 million to fire Gus Malzahn and buy him out. Just, I don't know if it's like a record. My guess is it has to be, but $21 million for him not to be your coach.
It's a lot. That's kind of what I said about the Sumlin thing. I understand Sumlin because, like, at this point, I think you got to get him out. Sumlin is still making money from Texas A&M, I'm pretty sure, and now U of A too. Gus Malzahn, I'm actually kind of surprised about this one. And I think the reason, and I read an ESPN article about it, I think the reason they decided to do this and pay him all that money was because of the offense just being so inconsistent and for the most part being dead. It's worth pointing out, this Gus Malzahn has been there since around the Cam Newton days. Like, this is one of the guys who started to, like, reinvent the up-tempo offense in college football before he was even a head coach. And if that's his calling card, that's not what Auburn is right now. That's not what Bo Nix is. That's not what the offense is. So I think Auburn's a good team, and I think Gus Malzahn is a fantastic coach. And one reason why I thought it was important to talk about this now before the offseason is I think he's going to get a job before we talk about this again.
Yeah.
I think it's very surprising that they fired him when they did, especially knowing that they have to pay him $21.7 million or something like that. Insane. Yeah. It's insane.
Short Round just brought this up here if you want to read that really quickly.
So he gets 50% next month, and the rest is going to be paid over a certain percentage every month of the year until it's paid off. He can even say, hey, just give me like $100,000 every month. Let me just have this be like one of those Bobby Bonilla contracts where you're just getting paid on a consistent basis. Where he doesn't have to coach ever again. He's just going to have a nice paycheck rolling in every month. I will say this, guys, before Lyle gives his 2 cents. I think the only reason Auburn did this is because there is one coach that they have in mind that they completely want to go after, and that's why. I don't know who it's going to be. You could list a ton of names, but they only did this if there's some guy that's available that they have their eyes set on, that they've maybe already talked to, that they completely want. Otherwise, you don't take the chance by paying $21 million to fire this guy.
What if, and I'll jump in here before Lyle, you if you have anything to say here, is a guy that we've talked about and I've especially talked about as one of my favorite coaches in college football. He hasn't been linked to this job at all, but say Auburn goes and poaches Luke Fickell from Cincinnati. Do you know what would be a great fit for Gus Malzahn? Cincinnati.
Yeah.
There are some that just trade head coaches.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a great combination pairing for both of them.
I follow some Oregon people on Twitter, and somebody was talking about how Mario Cristobal came out yesterday and said that he was not interested in the Auburn job and that he was planning on staying at Oregon. Now, obviously, for me, I think that sounds obvious because if I'm Mario Cristobal, I think you've got something going at Oregon, at least for like the not so distant future, despite having kind of a bad year, but you still get a chance to back your way into the conference championship somehow. But like somebody brought up this is a very typical, I'm going to finish out the season and then look at Auburn. And there's some people that have said some things like this could be a real thing. I don't know what the validity to any of those claims are, but maybe like that makes sense to what Brady said. Like if Malzahn was fired solely because Auburn thinks that they can go get a guy like Cristobal immediately, then why not do it? It's still like, in this climate, why pay a guy that much money to not be your football coach, though?
The one I'm afraid of is if they consider Tom Allen too.
He's not leaving.
He's not leaving, dude.
Tom Allen, he's until Indiana at least like gets to the Rose Bowl, he's not leaving.
7-year contract. Let him ride it out.
Any quick thoughts, Lyle?
Oh, just that, I mean, you kind of said it, that they probably have somebody specific in mind, along with, I don't know, like Auburn holds themselves to a standard that they want to compete for a national title every year. With Malzahn, since that first year with Nick Marshall where they lost to Florida State, like they haven't really done that. Like 5 losses in 14, 6 losses in 15, 5 and 16, 4 and 17, 5 and 18, 4 and 19, then 6 and 4 this year. Like they've been pretty mediocre for a team that's always ranked in the top 25 to start the year and a team that's competing for or tries to compete for a national title. It's just been kind of underwhelming. So maybe they just figure, look, he's been there a while. His time's kind of up. $21 million is a lot, though.
Dude, you know what? If I got $21 million not to coach, do you know what I would say? Thank you very much. Have a nice day. I'll see you later.
Well, Josh has a Twitter message that he wants to read, but before he reads that message, we're going to rapid fire some questions right now to get to very quickly, guys. Let's get these underway. Houston, VI. I'm just going to say Houston V, because why not? Houston V. If Notre Dame gets blown up by Clemson by like 20 points, do they still deserve to be in the playoffs? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Peter Keegwin. Why does Brock Purdy suck?
I don't think he sucks. I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't think he's elite. I would not speak about Brock Purdy in the same sentence as Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, and that's obvious. And let's say he sticks around next year, which he should. I don't know if I have him in the same breath as guys like Sam Howell and Keaton Slovis. He's solid, but I don't know. He's all right.
It's all right.
What is he doing?
Well,
he doesn't suck. He's inconsistent. I'll say that.
No, yeah. I mean, I think he's good, and he had kind of a down year. But maybe next year, if he sticks around, he'll figure it out.
As Joe Davis once said. All right, Josh, you can get that Twitter message up right now, that whatever you have ready for us.
So earlier in the show, we talked about how my pick'ems, for whatever reason, have just been horrible this season. So last week I said, hey, I think Virginia's going to win. So congrats, Virginia Tech, you win. I also said, I think North Carolina might win, and I've been high on them all season, but I'm picking Miami. So congrats, North Carolina, you're going to win. Well, I was right. The teams I picked lost those games. So we said, hey, DM me if you've got a pick. So this is the most creative one we've got. I have a message from Daniel Miller. He's a Purdue fan. And he said, can you please pick up false positive tests in the currently canceled IU Purdue game so that they will play on Friday? So I will accept that message. I will respond with, yes, I will. And I am predicting that the science was wrong and that they're false positives for the IU Purdue game this weekend. Sorry, what was that?
I was going to say, I've got some news about that game. It's like it's actual news too.
Okay.
Is that, this weekend in the Big Ten's all the head-to-head championship and the slotted games throughout. It was originally supposed to be, well, obviously IU in the Big Ten championship, but when the Big Ten changed the rules, it was going to be IU versus Iowa. And Iowa actually had reached out to Indiana last week and said, hey, are we going to play this game? And IU was adamant on pushing back Iowa and saying we'd really rather play the Purdue game, the open bucket game, because knowing both IU and Purdue had high positive cases, neither team was going to play. So they put the IU Purdue game back a week just in hopes the cases drastically dropped, and they did not. So Iowa actually reached out to IU to try to play, but IU pushed back and said, like, hey, we don't think we'll even be able to play. So they've known for a week and a half that they're not going to be playing this game.
It's a shame.
I'll predict that this game will not be played so that it somehow will be played. And Blake,
already canceled.
I'm changing it now by saying that it will for sure not be played. And Blake, if you put our Twitters up on the screen real quick before we get into the pick'ems, I already have my picks down. But hey, if you send me a DM on Twitter, because I'll obviously pick the wrong team and that team will end up losing. So put Twitter up. Either
that's all
Twitter,
I got. So this is what we're doing.
No, all of our
like,
names have our Twitters. Oh, there's me.
If you just do this,
oh, there you go. That makes sense. I don't know how to do that on these.
If you want your team to win, send me a DM there, and I will pick the team that they're playing. And
all right, guys, we got about 5 minutes for some more Q&A. Sam White doesn't have a question. Maybe he forgot, but donated some money. So Sam White, thanks for your donation. We appreciate it.
Kind of comments.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find a comment that you did, and we can get your comment up. All right, guys. Nathan, do you think it's going to be a riser in the 2021 college football season?
Arizona State. I think the Sun Devils have a good 2021 season.
I don't know if they're going to be a riser. I hope Coastal Carolina keeps it up going into next year. I don't want them to be a one-hit wonder. I think it'd be fun for them to continue on moving forward.
Off of teams, just off the top of my head, just how they played so far this year, I feel like Oregon's going to be better than this next year. So there's one.
I'll just stick with our two favorites, ASU and Indiana. Indiana's coming for that top 5 spot. ASU, they're coming for the top 20, but Indiana's coming for the top 5. Guys, here's one out of left field. Should Ohio State leave the Big Ten and join the ACC?
No.
No.
Why not? It would make things more interesting.
What? They'll become the Pac-12 if they do that.
Why not? Just to make things a little more fun. Guys, Nathan Muffin has a photo of a delicious, looks like a chocolate chip muffin, I think. Do you think North Carolina should be in the Orange Bowl over Miami? Yes.
Yes.
Evidently, yes.
Yeah.
Like by 40 points or so.
Guys, Nicholas wants to know, should Devontae Smith win the Heisman? I posted a video today with my Heisman favorites, guys, and as of right now, I know it's not going to happen. I have Devontae Smith as my number 1. I got him as my number 1 Heisman candidate. Just because without him, Alabama and Mac Jones are still probably decent, but without him, Mac Jones isn't, especially with no Jalen Waddle, who knows what Mac Jones' numbers look like. Mac Jones doesn't win the Heisman without Devontae Smith, and I think Devontae Smith's been the best player in the country this year, but that's just
joint Heisman, first time ever.
Yeah.
Joint Heisman for teammates.
Joint Heisman's fine. I also look at it, if it had been Smith that had gotten hurt, it would probably be Waddle putting up these numbers that Smith's putting up, which makes me believe that it has a lot to do with Mac Jones, which is why I have Jones at 1.
That makes sense. Lyle, what are you wearing? What is that shirt?
It's the St. Louis Blues shirt.
Blues.
Yeah.
Blues Stanley Cup shirt.
All right.
My dad got it when he was in St. Louis. So.
Same with the Vegas one, right?
Yeah, he got a Vegas one too when he was in Vegas.
All right.
Yeah, no, I give it to Devontae Smith, Mac Jones, and Najee Harris. Just give it to those 3.
Give it to Alabama.
Give the Heisman to Alabama.
I think, was it like Mac Jones or something that said that like a week ago, the Heisman should go to Alabama's offensive line?
Probably.
That's who it should go to. All right, guys, we'll have time for one final question. Aaron Meyer, do you guys think that Ohio State can beat any of the top 4 teams? Well, I guess the top 3, since considering they're in the top 4 as well. But let's throw in like A&M in there. Do you think Ohio State can take any of those teams down?
I think they can. If that was a pick'em game for us this week, whether it be Ohio State versus Bama or Clemson or Notre Dame, I would not pick Ohio State in any of the 3. But I think, yes, they could.
Yeah, same answer. I mean, they can. They're there for a reason, but I think all 3 teams are better.
I would agree, but Ohio State's defense was really iffy compared to some of these other top-tier offenses. I think they can compete with them, and I think they'd keep it a game just how high-powered their offense is.
Yeah, they can stay in. I think their best chance to beat any of them is maybe Notre Dame, but Notre Dame's defense is legit. The only reason is, Clemson, Alabama, I like their offenses more than Notre Dame. Ohio State can put up points, but it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Ohio State, if they get matched up with Alabama in that first semifinal, that's gonna be a fun one. But I think Bama will come out on top, guys. Final question from Short Round, as always. Let's try to end this at 6:21. So 2 minutes to spend on this one, so we can get to our pick'ems. Spend a few more minutes doing our pick'ems. He wants to know: would you rather always get stuck in bad traffic or always have slow internet? Cough, Josh.
So the question is, do you want to live in Los Angeles?
Well, what's funny about this Short Round is that I live in Los Angeles. So basically, I have both. And also, I was telling Brady this last week. The internet is awful in my house. But when I did the show in Arizona with Brady, and I've done the show in different locations, it's the site. For whatever reason, the site does not work well for me. I don't know why. So it like cuts out every couple minutes. But I think I would rather go with stuff. Oh my God! You cannot make this up.
What happened?
His internet went out.
Your internet just went out.
Given that I live in Los Angeles and I sat in traffic literally 2 days ago on the 101 freeway coming back from Hollywood, I would pick the traffic just because internet's better. So I already have both. So why not just settle on one?
Gosh.
Before I answer your question, Short Round, you gave us a question last week that was really good, and it was so on the spot that honestly, like, you stumped me. Like, I didn't have much of an answer. You asked, if you could take a mic and speak to the whole world for 10 seconds, what would it be?
I spent a week thinking about it.
I did because I didn't give him. I didn't give him.
His internet's out.
I didn't give him much of an answer. So I was trying to think about a better answer to give him. You know what I would do? I would take the mic, put it up to my mouth, and say, "And there's a drive into deep left field by Castellanos for a home run." There you go, Short Round. That's what I would do if I could speak to the world for 10 seconds.
That's great.
Man, give Lyle a week to think about something, and he's going to come up with something hilarious.
And Blake still won't be done bringing up a hypothetical question.
Hey, man.
To answer your question for this week, I would rather have slow internet. I just think sitting in traffic is miserable.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, slow internet's the absolute worst. I had to deal with that back in my old house down the street in Monrovia. It's absolutely the worst. And living in LA, it's just something you're used to. When you go somewhere else and there's not traffic, it's actually a change of scenery, and you're like, wow, this is what it's like to not have traffic.
You guys went
like
from
Arizona
LA,
everywhere you went. What's up?
It's like, just wait till you make your way to Indiana. It's unreal. There's no one around.
Yeah, and there's a roundabout every 5 feet. So
Damn right.
So there you go. All right, guys, it's time to get to our pick'ems now. This is gonna be a fun pick'ems week because we're just doing championship games only, so we can give a little more in-depth thoughts on our championship picks. I know a lot of people have been asking what our score predictions are for certain games, who thinks going to win this weekend. So now's your chance to see who we're picking. Let us know who you got for the conference championship games in the comments below. Guys, this is really going to come down to the final week. We're going to be doing pick'ems next week. It's not going to be like a bowl show specifically like in years past. There's a lot of bowls that have been getting canceled, but next week we're going to talk about the final playoff results, our final Heisman picks, along with all the other games that we have left. So it's going to come down to next week, but still a lot on the line this week. Lyle, I'm still going to give him the tie goes to the guy who's been in the lead most of the year. Lyle's got 121. I got 121. Brady got 113. Josh has 110. So at this point, it looks like it's a battle for first and second, and it's a battle for third and fourth. But hey, anything can happen this week. Brady, if you just pick the opposite of everything Lyle does and he gets them all wrong, you get them all right.
Yeah.
You might be in first all of a sudden like that. So those are the pick'em results. Brady looks like he's stumped. He's shocked.
Yeah, I just got a notification on like my Venmo card and eBay. It's like, you just spent $95. I'm like, no, I didn't. So that's no bueno.
No bueno. But it is bueno. The Conference USA Championship featuring UAB and Marshall.
Well, guys, Grant Wells throws so well, it looks like he's out there casting spells. He knows what sells, so ring 10 bells. I'm taking Marshall and my guy, Grant Wells.
Did you write a poem for every pick? Because I sure as the hell hope you did.
No, just that one. I wanted to figure out what rhymed with Wells.
Oh, boy.
I should have. It was funny.
Ring, as the great Doc Emmerich says, Josh.
Ring 10 bells for that save.
There you go.
So we're ringing 10 bells for Grant Wells.
I don't have a poem for Grant Wells, but I do think he's going to get the win, so I'm going to take Marshall.
We are hoping for a comeback in the pick'ems, but we are also picking Marshall.
Marshall started out so hot, and then they had that game against Rice the other week. They've just been kind of underwhelming. They don't score as much anymore. You know what? Well, let's go with UAB on this one. Let's have UAB pull off the upset. I think they only have one loss on the season, maybe two. Plus, again, as I say it every time, their logo is a fire-breathing dragon.
Yeah.
Come on. The MAC championship, guys. Ball State at Buffalo.
Shout out to my guy Jack McMullen. Chirp chirp. But yeah, I'm taking Buffalo. Got to stick with our guy Jared Patterson, the Heisman winner to be. Am I right? So I got Buffalo.
Well, he was named the MAC Offensive Player of the Year through 4 games. So there you go.
There you go.
Who knows if Ball State should have even won this past week? I think Buffalo. Yeah, I mean, you take it what you will, but I think Buffalo's a better team. I'm going Buffalo.
Hey, Josh, you shouted out, was it Jackie McMullen from SportsCenter or
Jack McMullen?
No, Jack. Yeah, shout out Jack Kaiser, also chirp chirp. Going Buffalo. Jarrett Patterson runs all over Ball State.
Yeah, Buffalo. I think I had him in Blake's bets -13. They can win this game by 3 touchdowns. Buffalo's offense is nuts. This is going to be a fun one, but I think Buffalo comes out on top. Mountain West, guys. Boise State at San Jose State. So, guys, before we get to our picks, let me explain this to you. San Jose State is hosting the game at their home stadium, which is, instead of in San Jose, in Las Vegas. But instead of being at UNLV's stadium, it's technically New Mexico's stadium for the year because that's where they're playing. So they're at San Jose State's hosting in Las Vegas at New Mexico's home field for the year.
What stadium is it?
Oh, it's that crappy Sam Boyd. Yeah,
that
down
sucks.
the street. But there you go. It's all over the place.
So a home field advantage. I'll take Boise State by a touchdown, which is big because the spread is Boise. What?
I was gonna say it's Boise State. Well, San Jose State, as last time I checked, +6.5.
Yeah. Oh, I saw Boise. Yeah. So Boise -6.5 was yeah. So Boise by a touchdown. That's what I'm taking.
I know San Jose State's undefeated, but I just have a better feeling about Boise State coming into this game. I just think they're going to show up. I know they've lost a couple this year, but I think they're going to show up and get it done. So I'm going to take Boise State.
It's always tough to pick against Boise State. And for this one, you know what? If any game is going to be wild enough to go the other way, is going to be this one. So I'm going to go San Jose State just to pick one going the other way.
San Jose State, again, they're undefeated. This is the best they've had, in a century. Boise State, they haven't been good the last few weeks. They struggled to beat Hawaii. Their last game, I can't remember who they played. They struggled in that one. I don't think they covered. If they did, they covered by a point. The Broncos, normally every year, they're a team you can rely on and count on. Not so much. We saw what happened when they played a good team in BYU. They got absolutely embarrassed, even though they were missing a few key pieces. San Jose State, I think they're going to be riled up. Home field advantage. San Jose from San Jose to Las Vegas, but I'm going to go with the Spartans in this one. Plus the ranked 24, maybe they're going to say, hey, committee, maybe you can get us in the playoff. Who knows? Probably the best group of 5 conference championship, and you can make the case maybe one of the better ones overall. Guys, Louisiana at Coastal Carolina.
This is a good one, and I think this is a good chance for both teams to demand a little bit more respect. Obviously, Iowa State's number 6 and lost to Louisiana. So Louisiana, I think, has a lot riding on this one. I'm going to take Coastal. I'll stick with the Chants, and I think it's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, like I said last week, Coastal Carolina just hasn't given you any reason to pick against them this year, especially after what they did against BYU. And I know Louisiana's been really good, and I think it's going to be a really good game, but I'm going to take Coastal.
Yeah, I'm going Coastal as well. I see no reason why you can't pick against the Chants in this game, so I'm going to go Coastal.
I was leaning Louisiana in this one because we know how difficult it is to beat a team twice in the same year. Coastal, they barely beat them the first time, beat them by a field goal. Louisiana, they're a very underrated team. They beat Iowa State earlier. Again, their only loss is to Coastal Carolina. Coastal looked pretty bad against Troy last week. maybe should have lost because they're down by, with 45 seconds left. But at home, I think is the difference maker. Coastal, I think they're going to wake up for this game. This is, one of the biggest games, in the history of their program. They're projected to finish last at the beginning of the season. Now they have a chance to win the Sun Belt. So although I was leaning Louisiana, I'm actually going to make the switch and go with Coastal Carolina in this one. The final group of 5 game we got, the American Conference title game. Hopefully this game is able to be played because last week Tulsa and Cincinnati got canceled. They were supposed to play last week. They'll play this week, which I think is better. I don't want to see the same teams on back-to-back weeks. But guys, we got the Golden Hurricanes, the Bearcats. Who do we like?
I think Cincy's going to be mad. I think they're pissed. I think Cincy by 20.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati will handle them. Cincinnati gets the win.
Cincy, not even close.
Yeah, Cincinnati is only favored by 13.5, which I think is a potential gift. Maybe I need to add that to Blake's bet. Hammer that one right there. Cincinnati, they're going to be pissed. This could be one of those games where they might come out, they might be a little, upset about what's going on. They might be kind of not playing their best. I think they're going to come out. They're going to come out pissed. They're going to come out hungry, and they are going to eat the Golden Hurricanes alive. I'm going to take Cincinnati in this one. The Pac-12 title game featuring a team that shouldn't be in there, and the USC Trojans. It should still be the Colorado Buffaloes. That's who should be playing against USC.
Yeah, I think this is a huge missed opportunity for the Pac-12 to not rearrange this a little bit, or at least they should have planned ahead on this. I think they were very sold on Oregon.
What?
What?
Excuse me? You just pinwheeled
right
again.
When you cut out, it sounded like you're about to say, F word.
Oh, fudge.
Oh, I don't even remember what I said. I think the Pac-12 really botched. I think they were too high on Oregon competing for a playoff spot to even consider that, the team from the North wasn't going to be very good. Yeah, it should be SC Colorado. That'd be best for the Pac-12. I think this game comes down to defense. And in the ASU game at the very end, it was the offense. In the Arizona game, it was the offense for USC. But these last couple of weeks for SC, even giving up 35 points to UCLA. For me, it was the defense that won the game. And I think SC's defense has been really impressive. Obviously, Talanoa Hufanga. I think the SC's defense ultimately wins them this game, but I do think it comes down to Oregon's defense too. I am excited to see how Oregon tries to defend against St. Brown, Drake London, and Tyler Vaughn. So I think SC wins. I think it's close. I'll take SC by a touchdown.
Yeah, I know people are mad that it's not Colorado, USC. I personally believe these are the 2 best teams in the Pac-12, like we said at the start of the year. And maybe this is false hope that I have in Oregon, but I don't know. I don't go out on a limb that much with my picks. I'm going to go 1, and I'm going to say Oregon wins by 3. I'm going to say it's a really good game. Like Josh said, it probably comes down to defense, but I'll say Shuck leads a last-minute drive.
So you're saying he's going to shuck USC?
Sure.
So SC's going to get shucked this weekend.
But
he's only going to shuck them
3 points, sure.
They're going to get shucked likely, though. He's not going to shuck them hard, so it's going to be a light shuck.
Softcore shucking.
Softcore shucking. Okay.
Brady?
Thanks a lot.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that.
Oh, that was too good.
No, I didn't like that at all.
We're either going to see a good shuck or a bad shuck. I just hope there's some good shucking this weekend, especially Friday night at USC.
I was talking to someone this past week, and they said someone brought up like USC is the best 4th quarter team in the country. No. USC is the best 1 minute left in the 4th quarter team in the country
with no timeouts.
Yeah.
And I think
it
comes
down into the field to drive.
And I think it comes down to that again. But I think USC is going to win in a close one. Where is it at? It's being played at USC, right?
Yes.
I've got USC at home, even though they're actually playing at home in this game, even though no fans. I'm going to go USC.
Have they announced what's happening with Colorado yet? Are they just getting absolutely shafted? Where they have the 2nd best record in the Pac-12. They don't get to play in the Pac-12 title game. Now they're the only team that doesn't even get to play this weekend. I guess aside from Washington, who's out because of COVID. Is Colorado just getting shucked here?
Yeah, they absolutely are. And it's not their fault. It's not other teams' faults. I think this is straight up on the leadership of the Pac-12. And we talked about this the other day. Somebody said in our group chat, the reason the Oregon game is also being played at the Coliseum is so that at the last minute, if they need to substitute Oregon for Washington, they can. And it's sure, like that makes sense, but like this is a situation that like they should not have been in the first place. So
Right.
I think the Pac-12 champion is getting absolutely screwed by the conference's leadership and the way that they set this season up from the first game of the year. And they're doing it to SC and they're doing it to Colorado.
Well, hopefully Colorado maybe can find some opponent this week. I mean, I heard something that Colorado State is looking for teams to play. Have Colorado State play Colorado. Bring back the rivalry. They were pissed they couldn't play this year. That seems simple enough. It seems a lot easier than what the leadership's doing over here. All right, guys, let's get this underway. The ACC title game, Clemson at Clemson at Notre Dame in Charlotte.
This one's so tough. I want to start off by quickly saying that I completely reject the narrative of that. Oh, well, if Trevor Lawrence would have played, we would have beat Notre Dame. Dude, like, Uiagalelei threw for like 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he's a true freshman. So I reject that narrative completely. I think Clemson is going to be fired up to go back in there and play Notre Dame with Trevor Lawrence. I will say that. I think this is a close game. I'm going to take Clemson. I think Clemson wins by a very narrow margin, and I think it has nothing to do with the fact that Trevor Lawrence is playing this game and he did not play the last game. So I'll take Clemson close. I just think it's really tough to sweep a team twice in a season. I just, if Notre Dame does it, then that's great and good for them. I just don't see it happening.
It's funny. Right before that Clemson game, I remember, I think it was Josh and I that had a conversation on this show about that. Like, Notre Dame's this good team and they lack a quarterback. And I was sitting on here talking about, like, oh, if Anthony Gordon from Washington State last year, even a guy like that played quarterback for Notre Dame, they'd be so much better. And like, since that time is like right when Ian Book flipped a switch and started playing really, really well. And from that point to now, like, they haven't given me anybody really any reason to believe they're going to go into this game and get blown out. I'm going to take Clemson too. I agree with Josh that, oh, if Trevor Lawrence had played, Clemson would have won is a little bit of a stretch narrative. But I'm also not going to sit here and act like him coming back isn't going to make a difference too. And also, if their middle linebackers back, James Skalski, that makes a difference. So this is going to be a good game. I'm pretty convinced. And I'll say Clemson wins by 1 touchdown.
Yeah, Lyle, you preached this often around the first time these two teams played. It's tough to beat a team twice. And I think that stands true. So I'm going to go with Clemson in this one. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be obviously the best game of the weekend. I'm going to go with Clemson in this one by 1 score, not in overtime.
Yeah, I texted this in our chat last night asking Lyle, because this is the one of all the games I'm betting on, the one I'm the most conflicted on, because as of right now, it's Clemson Clemson minus 10.5, where it seems like Clemson money line just to win. That seems like the safe bet. But this is a game where, as well, Notre Dame, they can still win, and they're getting 10 points. I wouldn't be shocked if Notre Dame wins. I wouldn't be shocked if Clemson dominates and wins by a couple touchdowns. I'm going to go with Clemson just because I'm taking the money line pick. But this is going to be one, guys, until I make that wager at Circa this upcoming week. I really am torn between Clemson money line and Notre Dame plus 10 just because I think Notre Dame could still win this game. But the way they've been rolling lately has been fantastic. This is a different Notre Dame team. It's just, we've said this, it's tough to beat a team twice. And Clemson, not only, again, with the whole Trevor Lawrence narrative, what was Clemson missing? Like 3 or 4 of their starters on defense that game. I think they're going to have all 3 to 4 back, so their defense is going to be revamped. And Clemson, I mean, you've been hearing what Dabo's been saying all week about how he thinks this Ohio State thing is awful. He thinks Clemson's deserving to be in a top 4 team. He's going to say, guys, listen, the committee's going to screw you guys. We need to get in, but with a win. So I'm going Clemson. But again, this is the one I'm the most conflicted on. But this, in my opinion, is going to be the most exciting game of the weekend in regards to all the conference championship matchups. This is the one I'm looking forward to the most. Before I move on, guys, I don't know if there's any truth to this, but our man Shay Nelson came in with a super chat donation. Did you guys hear that teams can create their own bowl games last second this year? I don't know if you can create your own bowl thing, but I wouldn't be shocked at how many teams are dropping out. If at the last second a team would say, you know what, hey, we want to be in the bowl game. Let's make something happen. So again, I don't know the truth to this, if there's anything going on with this, but I wouldn't be shocked if Arizona State, they say, you know what? Hey, is any bowl teams out there that want to host? Anyone out there want to play in a bowl game against us? That'd be kind of fun if they can just challenge teams. ASU says, we challenge you, Purdue, to a bowl game. Let's make it happen.
They'd shellac them.
They'd shuck them?
Schlack. S-C-H-L-A-C.
Schlack.
Shellac.
Shellac.
Shellac?
Nah, who knows? All right, guys, we've got time for three more games right here. The Big 12 title game, Oklahoma at Iowa State. Hopefully, Stephen Smith, you're still watching since this was your super chat about an hour ago.
Yep. I would love to see Brock Purdy and Iowa State win this game. I'm feeling Oklahoma. I think I picked Iowa State to beat Oklahoma the first time they played this year. I could be wrong. Oklahoma has been a lot better since those first 4 games. And Iowa State, they're a little inconsistent for me. I think they're a good team. I don't think they're a top 6 team. At the same time, I don't think Oklahoma is deserving to be a top 10 team. Good game. Oklahoma by a field goal.
Yeah, the way Oklahoma's played since the beginning of the year has been really impressive, and I think that whole team's kind of figured things out. I'm going to take Oklahoma. I think we all think Iowa State's a little bit too high in the rankings, and I just think Oklahoma at this point is the better team and is a little bit hotter.
You know, people from Iowa State are not – or from Iowa, I'm sorry, the state of Iowa are not called Cyclones. Interesting. People from Oklahoma are called Sooners. And for that reason only that reason, I'm going with Oklahoma. And for one more reason, because why, Lyle?
Because why not?
Because why not?
Yeah, and I was waiting for that reason, I'm out. Just
that's your line. I don't jack other people's lines, Blake.
Yeah, that's true. That's something
Brady
I do. Guys, Stephen Smith is still watching.
Brag.
You confirmed that Stephen is watching. So, Stephen, thank you again for the donation.
Yes.
Stephen, you're going to like what I have to say. I think Iowa State gets this done. We talked about earlier. I don't think they're the 6th best team in the country. I do, however, think that they are a better team than Oklahoma. Oklahoma, they have been rolling as of late, but they've been underperforming. They struggled against Baylor the other week. I just haven't liked what I've been seeing from them. There was a good win against Oklahoma State, but now that win's not looking so good as Oklahoma State's, I think, out of the top 25 maybe right now. So Iowa State, they're rolling. I think they're the better team. I'm taking them in Vegas this weekend because I'm able to get them +6. That's a nice extra bonus. But for you, Stephen Smith, I'm going to take the Cyclones in this one to win outright. When I make the bet, I'm still going to take them +6. I'm not confident enough to bet money line, but give me this +6 points. But for the sake of this pick'em, give me this one. The Big Ten title game, guys, Northwestern at Ohio State.
This game is being played at noon, by the way, on Saturday, Eastern.
It's almost like no one cares. Yeah, well, Ohio State, they're a good team. They should probably be playing in the Big Ten title game, but, rules are rules, and they should not be playing in the Big Ten title game. But, hey, as Brady said earlier, Ohio State is the golden child of the conference, especially when Michigan is irrelevant, so they'll bend the rules however they can. I've also done a little math in my head since my last pick and realized that I've been picking first and Brady's been picking the exact same teams I am. So I will be graciously finishing in last in the pick'ems this year. I've got Ohio State.
I don't think this one's going to be that close. I think Ohio State goes in and basically handles them from the start. So give me Ohio State.
I think Northwestern's got some pieces that are able to play well against a lot of teams in the country, but Ohio State is not one of those teams. And for that reason, I'm sorry, Peyton Ramsey, I'm going with Ohio State.
Yeah, this is one of Blake's bets, -20.5. Ohio State, they're going to want to prove that they're worthy of being a top 4 team. Northwestern's not that good. Their defense is great, but their offense is, Peyton Ramsey, I know you're buff. I know you're stronger than I'll ever be, but you guys are good. I think Ohio State wins this game by 30.
I also hope Northwestern just totally destroys Ohio State just for the sake of hey, screw you, Big Ten. Nothing would make the Big Ten more upset having Northwestern win. Well, yeah, it would, having Ohio State not be in it.
Before we move to our final game of the week, guys, Brett comes in. He wants to know, do you think the college football playoff should be expanded? We've talked about this in previous shows, but in case he hasn't heard our thoughts, just a quick yes or no. And if yes, how many teams would you like to see it expanded to?
All of them.
Every team.
1 through 130.
Tournament.
Game number 1, Alabama at 12-0 versus 0-12 UTEP. I think it should be. I think 8 is too many. I think 4 is too few. So I'll settle in the middle and go with 6. And seeds 1 and 2 get buys. I think the system they're doing now with 6 teams would work. I also think the 6 teams with the Power 5 champs and an at-large would make a lot of sense too.
I mean, if I got to pick in my own fantasy world, 24, but in reality, 8.
Yeah, I think 6 to 8 is the ideal number, and I think you could also get away with trying to sneak in 12 at the most. I think 24 is a little extreme there, Lyle.
Is FCS
I
16
I
or
would just cut out
24?
bowl season, but that's my world.
You just cut out bowl season.
Yeah, see, I would
my
never
world.
cut. See, I think we need to make bowl season more relevant again. Like bowl season used to be relevant, and now you've got a team that can win the Rose Bowl and the national championship in the same year. And to be honest, I think that's BS.
I think the playoff games should be their own individual game.
Agreed.
Leave the
Yeah,
Rose Bowl, the Rose Bowl. Leave the Fiesta, whatever. All the other ones.
This is also a topic for another show, but like I'm you guys say you want to make bowl season relevant. I don't see this thing that's happened this year with players opting out when they're on bad teams. Like, it's unfortunate, but I see it continuing, and that's why I want to see 24 teams, because I think a way to stop that would actually to have something to play for. Where if you're like 8-4, you'd have a chance. So if you're 4-4 halfway through the year, you still have a chance. But
Really
that's a long topic for another show.
I said this. Is FCS 16 or 24?
16.
16.
Keep bowl season, but just make the bowls certain ones. Again, keep like the Rose Bowl and all that kind of stuff. Keep that separate. But again, like the playoff, like the main playoff games, those should be just have it a Jerry World and just have it be the playoff semifinal. Just simple to have that, because I hate when the Rose Bowl, that's a playoff game. But I'd like to see it. You know what, guys? 7. The number one. If you're the number one team,
so NFL playoffs right now,
NFL style, number one team, you got to buy. Then you have 6 teams that go from there, just to be a little different. Because why, Brady?
Because screw off, Blake. That's my line.
All right, guys.
Why not?
Thanks for the donation, Brendan. SEC guys, Florida at Alabama.
It's not. What were we talking about? It's not even worth picking Florida for me at this point if I think Bama's going to win, because I can't catch up to Brady either way at this point. I'll take Alabama. I'm interested to see what this Florida defense is going to do against Alabama, because I think that this is a secondary that, at least on paper, should be able to compete with Alabama. But again, this is Mac Jones throwing the ball to Devontae Smith. So for that reason, Brady and Blake and Lyle, I'm taking Alabama.
I need to spend 30 seconds on this. I didn't get a chance to talk about it on the show. I thought we might recap this game, but we ran out of time. Obviously players have to play the game, and that's why Florida lost. I'm putting so much of that loss on Dan Mullen. Like he was so mad at the end of that game, which I think is hilarious. Like, college football coaches, like no other set of coaches in any sport, when they're mad about something, their favorite thing to do is like, let me just make a list here of every single thing I'm mad about. The best way I can convey this is to go up in front of the media on camera and just like sound like a 5-year-old and just spew out everything I'm mad about. Like how Dan Mullen talked about, oh, well, if we had just played less games, that seems to be rewarded this year. No, like you lost earlier in the year to A&M. You lost to a terrible LSU team who had like no players playing. You decided to bench Kyle Pitts. They called it an injury. I'm almost positive he thought he was just going to roll through this game, so he tried to rest him and save him for Alabama. That ended up costing you, and you're not going to beat Alabama anyway. But that's my little rant on that I had to really kind of compile together and keep short because we're running out of time. This game specifically, like I just said, Florida's not beating Bama. Bama's going to win, so give me the Crimson Tide.
Real quick, Lyle nailed that, by the way.
Yeah,
My favorite part about the press conference.
Like, spot on, Lyle.
Yeah.
That was one of the best, most competent, articulate things you've said on the show today.
Yeah, a lot better than the whole "we're done" or "you're done, Virginia." But the best part about that press conference, other than the fact that he quite literally acted like a child the whole time, was that he said when he was asked about the fog, he was like, "Oh, no, I could see everything. We could see everything on the field. We saw everything." And then they were like, "So what'd you think about the shoe?" And he was like, "I didn't see it." I was just like, you just said like 10 seconds ago that you saw everything. And then they threw the shoe and you're like, I didn't see it. Oh, did you see it? I bet you saw it. And he's like, yeah, he threw his shoe 20 yards. Oh, well, I guess that's a penalty then. Like,
who throws a shoe? Honestly. Also, Josh, major props to you. That meme you posted was really good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it was really good. Really good.
Yeah, I wanted to do a Florida one. I thought about the Florida throwing the playoff chances, but y'all are too quick on Twitter. Like as soon as I saved that GIF to or that photo to tweet the throw in the way the playoff chances, it was already up there. So I was like, there's no point.
Did you make a pick yet?
Yeah, it's your turn.
Oh, is it my pick? All right, I'm going Bama. Roll Tide. What? I'm going Bama.
Yeah, I thought Bama was going to crush him anyway, but then this loss, it just took the life out of Florida. Lyle, I'm with you. Kyle Pitts was not injured. Like Dan Mullen's trying to cover that up. He thought, let's just bench him. Let's make sure he's healthy for Bama and see what happens. And it came to backfire. And he's saying, yeah, you know what? I think Kyle Pitts actually might be healthy to play this week. We're going to play day by day, but I think he should be ready to go. No, Dan Mullen's an idiot. He's always had idiotic comments. The dude's a moron. Again, how do you lose to LSU? No.
I heard an interview with a writer here in Indiana who is a Florida grad. And he said, not only is Dan Mullen a terrible coach, he's also a terrible human being. And apparently, that's a big thing too. Is he's apparently a terrible human being.
Well, he did say he wanted to see 95,000 people pack in the swamp about a month ago. So
he did say that. That was proven to be true.
He did say that. Bama's going to roll. Bama's going to
fact check proves that was indeed true.
I'm going to do the next show holding a microphone.
There's going to be a lot of points in this game, but I'm taking Bama. I'm taking Bama by a lot, as I'm taking a minus the 17. I'll take the minus 17, even if that's the first half spread. All right, guys, so that does wrap up this week's edition of the Harris Highlight Show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at the HH Show _. Guys, next week's going to be a fun show because we're going to be giving our full reaction to the weekend of college football, everything that happened. Hopefully, there's a lot of chaos for us to go over. We're going to have the brand new playoff rankings. Well, not the brand new, the final playoff rankings of the season. We're going to be going over the playoff rankings, if the committee got it right, if they got it wrong. We're going to be giving our final Heisman picks because I think Heisman ballots are due by the 24th. So we're going to be giving our full Heisman predictions in regards to that. We're also going to be doing our full bowl season preview where we go through every bowl game, every playoff game, all that kind of stuff. We're going to be giving our predictions. So next week's going to be a jam-packed show, a must-watch show. Follow us on Twitter at the HH Show _ because I think as of right now, we're still going to set it for Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Things might change, things might happen, but expect the show next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Any parting words from you three gentlemen before we head out for the week?
Fight on, forks up, and 70-7. They did not take their foot off the gas.
Oh yeah, I got something. Lyle, happy Hanukkah, dude.
Happy Hanukkah, Lyle.
Oh yeah, you too, Brady.
Also, happy birthday to Brady a couple days ago.
Thank you. Yeah,
there you go.
Blake forgot.
Yeah,
I didn't forget. It was about 8 p.m., 11 p.m. Eastern. I had 1 hour to spare. I like to wait to the last second, just like I do with my Venmo requests that are 1 cent under. So
Brady's now 23, and Lyle, I think you're still 22, right?
Lyle's 23.
Lyle's 23. I'm 22. You're 23. Blake, you're 44.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Well, that wraps up this edition of the show. Again, give this video. Yeah, of course he forgets. Give this video a thumbs up. Drop a comment. Make sure to subscribe. Follow us on Twitter. Follow all of us on Twitter. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. You can hit us up on Patreon. Become a Patreon member. Get access to our fun Twitter group message. It's a whole lot of fun. Josh, I'm going to kick your butt this week in fantasy football. Brady, hopefully you beat Andrew Koster so I could play you next week for the championship. But for Josh Schaefer, Lyle Goldstein, Brady Klain, this has been Blake Harris from the Chateau in beautiful Monrovia, California. Hit us up on Twitter. Thanks for watching, everyone. We're going to see you guys right back here again next Tuesday night.